بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Okay, so sisters, can you hear from that side? Okay, so this is Surah Mulk, continuing from where we left off from last week. Was it verse number 5? 3. Oh, I thought we were doing about 6. Okay, so verse number 3 then. So can anyone recap any point that you remember from last lesson? Anything that maybe you remember?
Barakah means something that grows.
Is it not loud enough? Any better? Same? Okay, 1 second. Okay, it should go up in a bit, inshallah. Alright, so Alright, so so verse, anyone remember anything? Power, we talked about power, yeah, definitely. Anything else? Kingdom. Yeah, we talked about the kingdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any other? Yeah, the layers of the heavens, so the skies, it seems to be this tibaq, layers one on top of the other. Anything else?
Meaning of death.
The?
Meaning of death.
Meaning of death. The idea that Allah is the one that creates this concept of death and the concept of life. It's in Allah's hands. Testing as well. Sisters, has it got any better? It's the same. Can you do a favor? Go and check if Nasir is there. And tell Nasir that the volume needs adjusting. He might be upstairs in the office. Okay, so just let's wait for that. So anything else? So death, yeah, life, death.
Barakah is something that grows.
Yeah, barakah is something that grows, and that's where the word tabarakah, we said, the word tabarakah has a connection with the growth, and it's something which can't really be translated into English because there's no word that serves this purpose. Yeah, quality. Ahsana, very good. Yeah, so the quality of actions, like we said, ahsana amala. So Allah is not looking for necessarily the amount you do. It's not about yeah, right. All right. Okay. Any questions before we start? No? Okay, so A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. So we said last week, if you remember, we said there's no tafawut in the creation of Allah. Does everyone understand what tafawut means? There's no inconsistency in the creation of Allah. Meaning that you won't find in the creation of Allah, like He's made something really amazing, and then the way He makes that thing is different, totally different from the way He made something else. Yeah? So you won't find this, inconsistency. The mosquito, if you look at the mosquito is totally different from a mountain. But the consistency that you find in the mountain, you're going to find that consistency also in mosquitoes. You're going to find it in the leaf of a tree as well. You're going to find it in the way the clouds have been made as well. So all of these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates, every single thing that Allah has created, there's a consistency inside of it. Just like, you find some companies, especially like Mac, Apple, they try to be consistent the way they make things. So all their products, they follow a very similar way of how it's made, right? But obviously, comparing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation to manufacturing of human beings is something which, there's no comparison in reality. But Allah, there is no inconsistency in Allah's creation. Yes, someone might say, why didn't Allah create humans like this? Why didn't Allah give humans more brain capacity? Why didn't Allah give humans more strength to jump higher? That's not inconsistency. That's your own personal suggestion, that is. That's not to say that the creation is inconsistent. Yeah? Okay, and this is the amazing thing. If you ever like watch these sci-fi films where they go to another planet or they have a monster, the way they imagine a monster to be, the way they create this monster, this image of this monster, CGI, is totally, outside of the consistency of the rest of the creation of the universe. Yeah, the monster might have 10 heads. Yeah, the monster might be breathing fire. The monster might be like this. It might be like this. And we know in reality this can't exist because it goes against the consistency of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates things in the universe. Yeah, so this in itself, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, if this book was from other than Allah, you would have found many discrepancies in there, many faults in there, many problems in there. And just like when people try to make a movie about life, what do you find? You always find mistakes. You find reviewers, if you go like on YouTube or somewhere, you can find people who criticize films. That's all they do. They find all the mistakes that were made in the film. Right? How come they do like this? How come they do like this? Because this shows that human beings, it doesn't matter what they produce, a film, a book, anything they produce, there will always be inconsistencies in there. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us that tafawut, inconsistencies, you will never ever find in Allah's creation. Yeah, sisters, does it sound better? Yeah? Okay, so then he says, فَرْجِعِ الْبَصَرَ هَلْ تَرَى مِنْ فُتُورٍ. We said, the translation of this is, return your eyesight to the creation. هَلْ تَرَى مِنْ فُتُورٍ. Do you find any futur in there? We said, fatara, it means a crack, a break, something which is missing. And this word is also used for breaking of the fast as well. Yeah, iftar, futur. So the reason it's iftar is because when you eat something, you break that fast that you've been holding throughout the day. And so likewise, the word futur, it comes from the word fatar. And one of Allah's names, He mentions in the Quran is Fatir. One of the chapters is called Surah Fatir as well, because Allah, He breaks things into existence. He breaks things into existence. So, Hal tara min futur would mean this then, that have a look, human beings, all human beings are being given the opportunity here. Everyone, male, female, young, elderly, everyone is given the opportunity here to look into Allah's creation. And this is a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants human beings to use their understandings and intellect to understand Allah. In other words, other faiths you might find, other religions, they don't want you to question, they don't want you to think about the religion, they don't want you to critique the religion in any way. But Allah is opposite. Allah is encouraging everyone, He's inviting everyone, look at my creation, try to find a fault. Hal tara min futur. Can you find any futur in Allah's creation? So the futur itself, are you looking for a chair, brother? You want a chair? 1 second. Go on, check if there's any chairs. There should be some. And ask Nasir to put it up on the sister's side. It's still not up. Yeah, tell Nasir. Okay, so Hal tara min futur. Everyone understand what futur means? In other words, Allah is asking me and you, and I asked you to do this last week as assignment. I said, just look in anything, choose anything you like in your life, anything you want, and try to find any sort of fault in there. Right? You might find something where a suggestion of how it can be improved, but you won't find a fault in there. You'll never find a fault in your eye. Yes, if a person is born and they have a weak eyesight, or they have something missing in their eyesight, that's not a futur, that's part of Allah's creation. That's part of the consistency. There'll be some people that will be born with certain disabilities. So these disabilities that you have are not futur, these are actually part of the consistency of Allah's creation. In order for Allah to create things in the way that He creates them, there will be creatures who will be born impartial or partially. So, hal tara min futur, look in the creation, do you find anything which is wrong? Now you see, the reason why there's nothing wrong in the creation is because the whole of the creation, it works on laws, it works on rules. Like When the sun rises, there's rules that govern the sun rising, or the earth spinning, or the rain going up into the atmosphere and then coming down as water, or the movements of the ocean, or heat rising. All of these things are governed by laws. If there was any fault in these, there would never be consistency. We wouldn't be able to live on earth. So consistency, like we said, tafawut. Yeah, sisters, that better? Okay. So tafawut in Allah's creation, having, it's a bit loud. Is it getting a bit too loud? Okay, so you might have to just lower it on the dial. Okay, so tafawut in Allah's creation, this is also something which Allah wants us to search for. Hal tara min futur. So this is like a rhetorical question. You're never going to find any flaws, any mistakes, anything missing, Allah's creation. I mean, humans are still now, after so many thousands of years, are still now trying to understand what the smallest particle is. So if humans are still trying to understand the smallest particle, it means that they will never be able to find any sort of flaw, because they are still discovering more that they didn't know before. Anyway, then Allah says, verse number 4, ثُمَّ ارْجِعِ الْبَصَرَ كَرَّتَيْنِ يَنْقَلِبْ إِلَيْكَ الْبَصَرُ خَاسِئًا وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ. Then return your gaze, كَرَّتَيْن, twice. يَنْقَلِبْ إِلَيْكَ الْبَصَرُ, your gaze will return back to you. خَاسِئًا, confused. وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ, whilst becoming weak. Okay, so ثُمَّ ارْجِعِ الْبَصَرُ. What did you get in the translation for basar? Did anyone get any?
The vision.
Huh?
The vision.
Vision. Okay. Anything else?
Turn back the eye again. Turn back.
Turn back, yeah. But what did you get for basar?
The eye.
Eye? Okay. Basar, actually, in Arabic, the word basar is different from the word ru'ya. Yeah? Ru'ya or nazar. There's three words in Arabic that are used. Okay? One is nazar. Nazar is when you look at something. Okay? Nazara. So, for example, if I look at the tree outside, I say, I am doing nazar of that tree. Nazartu. There's another word which is ru'ya, to see something. Yeah, so I see a tree, I say, ra'aytu, ru'ya. And there's a third word which is basar. So the word basar actually means vision with contemplation. So basar can only be used in Arabic if you look at something and then you start following it up with a bit of contemplation and thinking. Yeah, so here Allah has used the word basar because basar, it fits in perfectly with the theme of these verses. The theme of these verses is Allah is inviting humans to think about the creation. Yeah, to look into the creation. ثُمَّ ارْجِعِ الْبَصَرَ كَرَّتَيْنِ. Yeah, then look at the basar karratain. Yeah, sisters, is the sound okay? Is the image working? Okay, that's fine. ثُمَّ ارْجِعِ الْبَصَرَ كَرَّتَيْنِ. Now look, what does karratain mean? Huh? Twice, yeah? Huh?
Again.
I repeat it again and again. Here, karratain doesn't mean twice. Like it wouldn't make sense why Allah is telling us to look twice for, like why is the number 2 important here? In the Arabic language, the Arabs, they generally use the number 2 for repetition. Yeah? Like you say, I looked at it again and again. What does that mean? Does that mean twice? Multiple times, isn't it? So the Arabs use this word like this as well. So karratain means carry on looking at it. In fact, the word karra, it actually is a maneuver that's used in Ba'al. So it's, I don't know what they call it in English, but basically what happens is you make it out as though you're in defeat, you're running away, and then what you do is you turn around and then you attack again. What is it called in English? Yeah, so it's a tactical maneuver in Ba'al they use. In Arabic you call this karra. Karra basically means the horses, what they would do is the enemy would be coming, so what they deliberately do is make it seem to them as though that the enemies have the upper hand and they'd start to run away. So once they'd get to a certain point, they'd immediately turn around, yeah, 180 degrees, and then they would attack. And because the enemies have been running for a long time, they're exhausted and tired, and then that attack, it becomes more easier for them. So the word karra, this is what the karra means. In other words, go look at the creation. Once you've fully looked at it, go back home, think about it. And then when you think, I've missed this out, go back, look at it again. Carry on looking at it, spend your whole life looking at things, investigating things. ثُمَّ رَجِعِ الْبَصَرَ كَرَّتَيْنِ. And this is also indication towards Allah encouraging human beings to learn about their environment. Learn about science, learn about physics, learn about biology, learn about chemistry. So Muslims in the early years became experts in the sciences of the world, materials, natural sciences, material sciences, social sciences. They became expert in these at their time. Why? Because they saw that the Quran is encouraging human beings to do this. Right? So the Quran does not prohibit people to ask questions. No, the Quran encourages people to ask questions, because that's the only way human beings can fully use their minds. You can only fully use your mind and utilize it if you're asking questions and you're finding answers. You may be asking questions for a very long time and you might not find the answer for everything. That doesn't matter. The thing is, you're on a journey of asking questions. So in the Quran, if you look at all the prophets that came, every single prophet that came always asked the audience that they were sent to, they always asked them questions. Like Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he went to the idols and he said to the people, are these idols helping you? Are these idols going to do anything for you? Can they eat? Can they sleep? Can they speak? Can they save you from a calamity? So these are things you have to think about. Yeah. So ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر ينقلب إليك البصر. Your basar will return back to you. In other words, the more you look into the creation of Allah, the more you look into your surroundings, the only thing that you'll get at the end of it, Allah is promising, the only thing you'll get at the end of it is your vision will return back to you. Khasi'an in the Arabic grammar is hal. So this is a word that's it's in a state. Your eyesight will be in a state that you'll still be confused. In other words, you'll still be bewildered about Allah's creation. Like I gave the example last week about the black hole. They knew about the black hole for decades. Yeah. So the scientific equations, the mathematical equations that they had for the existence of black holes and the observations that they knew they existed. But when they saw it, it was as though they saw it for the first time. They were shocked, amazed. So khasi'an is actually used for, a dog, when you're trying to shoo a dog away. Yeah, what do you say when you're trying to shoo a dog? Yeah? Shoo, yeah? Yeah. So in Arabic you say ikhsa, ikhsa, ikhsa. Yeah, so the dog, when you say that, what's the reaction of the dog? It's like, it doesn't know what to do. It's trying to attack you, then all of a sudden you turn around and you stamp your foot or you moved your hand, and then the dog just puts his tail in and, yeah, so that's the condition, khasi', that's khasi' that is. Yeah, this bewildered state that you're in. Allah is saying your eyesight will remain bewildered. وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ, meaning hasir literally means when the earth becomes exposed. So let's say there's water on the ground and it becomes exposed. You say the earth has become hasir, hasara. Yeah? Or for example, someone has hair and then mashallah the hair goes. Yeah, you say the head has become hasir. Yeah, it's hasir. So in other words, it means, the word hasir actually means weak. In other words, the only thing you'll get out of looking at Allah's creation again and again to find faults, the only thing you'll get at the end of it is weak eyesight. It'll weaken your eyesight. Because it doesn't matter how deep you go into Allah's creation, you'll never be able to reach right at the end of it. Yeah, you'll just turn back and your eyesight will become weaker. Meaning that all your faculties, not just your eyesight, all your faculties, you'll admit that you're incapable of encompassing Allah's creation. So imagine thousands of years have gone by. You look at something like a mobile phone, where Samsung will bring out a mobile phone and then all of a sudden China will take that phone, rip it apart, find all of the pieces of how it exactly works. Their eyesight will never go hasir, because they've worked it out within a day or two. But Allah's creation is such, Allah is saying that this is beyond human capacity. Humans have no idea what they're getting themselves into when it's Allah's creation, because it's just so profound. Everyone understand this? But again, Allah is still encouraging us to investigate. So as a Muslim, if we investigate knowing our limits, as a Muslim we know We can't go beyond Allah's creation. Yeah. Whatever Allah has told us, this is how Allah has. However, we still should go and investigate how these things work. How does fire work? What's combustion? What's insulation? What's cold? What's heat? What's rain? How many different types of rain are there? How many different types of trees are there? What are the different ways that gravity works on different planets? So all these things we're encouraged to investigate. I was actually writing a book, and I've actually put it on pause for the moment. It's basically called the Muslim on Mars, the Martian Muslim. Yeah, that's what it was called. So I started it and I did about 20-30 pages. Yeah, then I put it on pause. So basically the aim of it was that humans have, it's a futuristic book, humans have reached Mars, and one of the Martians, because they've become a society that's left religion, yeah, they've stopped religion, they've kind of focused on sciences. So this guy on Mars, he wants to become Muslim. It's a story, right? And it's his journey about becoming a Muslim, and then his issues with like learning about Islam on Mars, the issue of the Qibla, which way does he face? Yeah, the issues of the sunrise, the issues of the following the moon, because Mars has 2 moons. How do you do Ramadan? Yeah, all these kind of things. How do you pray on the ground? How do you do wudu? Does that make sense? And the aim of the book was basically to show people that if we are deprived of some of the luxuries that we have on earth, how much we appreciate them. Yeah, just some of the simple luxuries like oxygen or light or even the ability to walk on ground. Yeah, these are the kind of basic things that we take for granted, and then this story was supposed to kind of highlight that. Let's make dua inshallah in the future, finish it. Or someone else finish it, who knows. Anyway, next. So this is number 4. Number 5. وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ وَجَعَلْنَاهَا رُجُومًا لِلشَّيَاطِينَ. What translation did you get for this? Verse number 6, number 5.
We have adorned the nearest heaven with lamps.
Okay.
And certainly we have adorned this lower heaven with lamps.
Okay. Let's look at this then, yeah? So what was that? Indeed, we have adorned
The nearest heaven with lamps.
the nearest heavens with lamps. Now this translation here, you know, when I first read something like this, I couldn't understand what's happening here. Yeah? Adorned, yeah? Lowest heaven, the nearest heaven with lamps. It just seemed very disconnected from like Allah's book. It seemed you're reading a divine book and then it's like mentioning kind of strange things, lamps in the sky. No, there's no lamps in the sky. Yeah? Does that make sense?
One side, we have said we for the nearest heaven with stars.
With stars, yes. So see, some of them have tried to move away from lamps and try to say lamps mean stars. Did anyone get anything else?
Might have lower heaven with lamps.
Lower heaven with lamps, yeah. So see, some say closest heaven, some say the lowest heaven. Yeah, the translators can't seem to agree.
Start with and start with
Indeed, and. Okay, excellent. So let's look at this and then we can see how far the translation is. So Allah says, وَلَقَدْ. Now in Arabic, when you have walaqad is actually used for emphasis. Right? So in Arabic you have multiple words that are used for emphasizing statements. Like in our day-to-day speech, what kind of words do we use if we want to convince the other person something really happened?
Indeed.
Yeah? You say indeed. Yeah? MashaAllah. If you do, definitely. Anything else? Wallahi. Some people say wallahi.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Certainly.
Yeah, certainly. By Allah, I swear on my mom's life. Yeah. So people why do they use these statements? Because they want the other person to become convinced. So you have to understand language like this as well. The Arabic language is exactly the same as any other language when it's trying to speak to other humans. End of the day, the Quran is speaking to humans here. He's not speaking to a super race, a super creation. Speaking to human beings. So the Quran is going to use language which is human language. So walaqad is going to be translated as a word which is for convincing someone. So if you want to say indeed, or surely, or by Allah, wallahi, we have adorned, yeah, as-sama ad-dunya. Everyone got that? Walaqad? Okay, zayyana in Arabic, zina. So look, there's 3 stages of beautifying something. One is just the way, let's say for example, my face. The way I naturally look, this is the norm. And then maybe I might go and I might put some cream on my face, yeah, cover up some dark eyes, yeah, do some other things with my face. This is called Jamal. So Jamal is enhancing your natural features slightly. So when you enhance the natural features without you obscuring the original surface, yeah, without me obscuring the original surface, this is called Jamal. And then there's a level above this which is called Zina. Zina is when you totally hide what's underneath and you put something else on top. So if I was to cover my face with like clown paint, yeah, and make all these stars and face and put all this cream of colors on my face, this would be called Zina. So Zina is adornment where you're covering up what's underneath. It's like you can't see what's underneath. Yeah, this is Zina. And then above this, there's another level which is called Zukhruf. So Zukhruf is where a person totally obscures any traces of what was left underneath. Like in Zina, you might know some features, like there's a face there, you might know. But then Zukhruf is like totally cladding something on the surface and you can't tell what's there. Does that make sense? This is called Zukhruf. So Allah in the creation, He's created things Jamal. There's some things in the creation He creates which are Jameel. You look at them, they're very nice. Allah says about animals, horses. You look at a horse, you're impressed with how a horse looks. Horse doesn't need to do any combing in the morning. It's just natural beauty, Jamal. And then Allah mentions about Zina. Yeah, He mentions about this worldly life, the things that He's given you, family, children, wealth. These are the Zinatul Hayatid Dunya. These are the things that not only enhance the beauty, but they're like extra things where it distracts you from the original. And then you have Zukhruf. Allah says about, He says about the earth when it's barren, and then rain falls, and then after a few weeks, all of a sudden you can't recognize that earth again, because there's so much foliage and so many plants that have grown in its place. This is called Zukhruf. Okay, so going to this word Zina then, everyone understand these 3 stages, yeah, or 4 stages, yeah? Jamal, Zina, Zukhruf, 3 stages. Okay. So Allah says, Zayyanna sama, the sky has been adorned. In other words, they are deliberately, Allah has put things there which for the onlooker seem to be beauty. Now, we have to get this very clear, this issue. Has Allah created the stars to impress us? Or do the stars as a byproduct of Allah's creation seem to be impressing us? Does that make sense? Yeah? Now to me, it doesn't seem that Allah would create something to impress anyone. Allah doesn't impress anyone. Allah is the creator. He just creates. Yeah? He brings the things into creation. So He's not there to impress us. But as a byproduct of Allah's creation, we will be impressed by it. Yeah? If anyone who looks at stars, anyone who stands at the edge of the ocean and looks at the ocean is impressed. Anyone who looks at a big whale is impressed. Anyone who looks at a big mountain is impressed. Their breath's taken away. So these emotions, these feelings that you get, Allah over here, when He says Zayyanna sama, Allah is saying that He has created it, but for us, it's become like a zina, like a adornment. Does that make sense? Yeah. So in other words, there might be someone who might study the stars for their life, and they might think to themselves, you know what? This is just a normal thing for me. It's not that impressive. But there might be someone who's never seen stars in their life, a sky full of stars, and that person might be impressed. So this does not mean that, oh, it didn't work on this guy, but it worked on this guy. It's just that different people react emotionally to what they see around them, the surroundings, in different ways. So وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ. The word misbah, Sama'ad dunya, like we said, Allah has created samawat, skies. These skies, we have no idea of exactly what a sky is. What's the definition of a sky? We don't know. Some people might say, oh, I think a sky is the ozone layer. This is one sky, and then the stratosphere is another sky. And then all these different layers of atmosphere that we have is different skies. We don't know. That's just a guess, that is speculation. In reality, what we have to remember is, when Allah talks about anything of the creation in the Quran, we can only try to draw similarities with what we think he's talking about. Remember that. Otherwise, what will happen is people are going to make big mistakes. Like for example, if you were to tell someone Allah has made lanterns in space, they're going to say, what lanterns? Like there's big lanterns, where are they? Let me check. And they take the Hubble telescope. That's redundant now, isn't it? What's the new one? Yeah, they made that redundant. But anyway, let's say they took the Hubble telescope and they're looking at space. Well, we never found any lantern out there. We can't find any lantern there. So when Allah, He uses the word lantern, Allah, He only uses the word lantern because humans have no other word in their days when the Quran was revealed that could describe the celestial objects. They had no other word. Like they had no word for a galaxy. They didn't know galaxies existed. The Arabs didn't know. So their language couldn't cater for that word. So the way the Quran speaks about the universal phenomena is the Quran will use day-to-day language. For example, like what is this? So Quran is, if I was to take it a notch down, I could say this is a bunch of pages that have been binded together, yeah? If I was to take it a notch down, I could say this is part of a tree. Does that make sense? If I take it a notch down, I could say what? This is the seeds. I'm reading from seeds. I'm reading from a tree. I'm reading from pages. I'm reading from a Quran. See the different layers. So when the Quran speaks about the natural phenomena that you see outside, like for example, the reproduction system inside the woman's womb, when the Quran talks about this, it will use words which all human beings at that time who spoke Arabic could relate to. It says, for example, a drop of fluid. Can relate to that? The drop of fluid goes into a place which is firm. Can relate to that? That drop of fluid becomes something which is sticky. Yeah, alaqa, a sticky. Yeah, something which is sticky like what do you call them? Leech, like a leech. And then this leech kind of thing becomes like a chewed up piece of meat. Look at the wording. Sounds very, very simple wording, but in reality, when you look at it through an observer's eye point of view, it seems very sophisticated. It's like precise. Does that make sense? So it's like using very simple wording. We don't use scientific wording in the Quran, but if scientists were to use their definitions, they could define each stage according to the scientific terminology. Same thing with the masabih. So the word masabih is from the word misbah. Misbah is actually from the word subh. Subh means morning time. So that light that shines in the morning at Fajr time from the horizon. Subh. Yeah, Fajr is called subh as well. Misbah is a replicate of that. In other words, this light that you see in the morning, the Arabs use it for a lantern at home as well. They call it the misbah. Misbah meaning ism al-ala, the thing that gives sabah, the thing that gives light. So like these lights that we have are electric, but in the olden days they'd have a vessel that had a glass covering around it, which had oil in there, which had a wick in there. They would ignite the wick, and then this would absorb the oil, and then this would burn, and it would release light. So this is what a misbah is. Now if you look at this description and you look at the sun, or you look at other stars, what are they? If you took someone to space, let's say, on your spaceship, and you showed them a sun, and you said, describe it the best way you can with something that you normally have in your house, what would they describe it with? Lamp, isn't it? Now, someone who's on earth and looks at a star, can they tell it's a lamp? Would that word lamp fit? Not necessarily, is it? So this actually shows, look at the precision of the Quran. The Quran could have used any word. The Quran could have used fire. Like some people would describe stars in the skies as fire, shooting fire. But the Quran doesn't use that. The Quran uses a specific word, misbah. And this is strange because the Arabs in the past wouldn't use these kind of words to describe the stars. So the Quran using this itself is precision wording, precise wording. And now if we look at the sun is described like a hanging lantern. It's like its gases, you can say, can be the oil, and the wick burning inside of it. And the scientists even say one day it will, just like a lantern will stop burning. The sun will stop burning, and they have different phases for it. And exactly same phases. If you look at a misbah, and you look at how it burns in the beginning, and then when the oil it decreases and dries up, and how it burns out and the colors it goes through, very similar to, yeah. So you see how the precision the Quran uses. وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ. Now masabih is a plural, and this could refer to several things. Allah could have just said this, bil misbah, zayyana sama bil misbah, but he didn't say that. He said masabih, plural. So why plural for? One is obviously there are more stars in space than there are grains of sand on earth, they say. Yeah, trillions and trillions and trillions of stars. We in Birmingham, mashallah, yeah, we only see the stars that get locked up in prison. Yeah, we don't see the real stars. So those stars, right, in space, if you go to a place that's clear, if you go to some rural area and you look in space, you'll actually see all stars. Yeah, and this is naturally how it's supposed to be. So masabi, plural, refers to a large number, yeah, a plethora of stars. Number two, masabi is used in Arabic to mean different types of lanterns. In other words, not all the stars are the same. When you look at it from Earth, you think all the stars are in unison. They're all the same. They function exactly the same way. It's only through modern technology that we can tell some stars are different than others. Some stars are more powerful, some stars are smaller, some stars are larger. They're all stars, they're all misbahs, but they burn at different rates, you can say. Yeah, they're different quality lanterns. Does that make sense? Yeah. And he says, "Ad-dunya bimasa," and I've read some places as well where they've actually mentioned that the masabih that Allah mentions here is very interesting. When you have a lantern at home, what does the lantern attract? Flies, in it. So these lanterns in space seem to have an attraction to something. What's the attraction? Yeah, we don't know. Maybe it's gravity. Maybe it's something else. Yeah. But this word masabih, it's so precise that you can look at it from different angles as well. So this is some people have mentioned that. So anyway, as-sama ad-dunya, the dunya literally means the closest. When we say dunya, this life is called dunya because it's the closest abode to us from the hereafter. Yeah, so the hereafter is furthest away, further away. In other words, the hereafter is where? After we die. But what's the closest abode? The dunya. So the word dunya in Arabic means the closest thing to you. So the sama dunya, it seems as though there's layers of skies. The closest one to us is the one where we can see the stars. Maybe in the second sky and the third sky there's different creations. There's a different whole system out there, we don't know. So, زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ. Everyone sign up there? Okay, next. وَجَعَلْنَاهَا رُجُومًا لِلشَّيَاطِينَ. And we have made them shooting targets, rujum, shooting targets, rajam, it means to shoot, lishayateen, for the evil ones. So again, if we just take this from an observer's point of view, right, what is this saying? We've made the stars into masabih, okay, number one. Number two, the stars have a second function as well. They are something to do with evil ones using them as, or being used for shooting. So some of the mufassireens here, they said that this verse actually refers to shooting stars. So there's some narrations where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about shayateen. What happens is the jinn, which is a creation that Allah has created, they go up into the skies because they have the ability to travel long distances. So they go up into the skies and they can actually hear the conversations of the angels. So the angels, when they're having their conversations about what's going to happen in the universe. So all the affairs of the universe are being passed down from the angels to each other to carry out the duties, right? Again, this is a realm we don't understand. This is beyond the realm of our science. This is like, you can say, the background of science. So science tells you, for example, if you pick something up and throw it down, it falls to the ground on earth. But what's the background to this? Like, what's the hidden secrets behind this? That's where Allah gives us an insight into it, the alam al-ghayb, the unseen world. Our senses can't detect. Like, for example, jinn. We know jinn exist, we know angels exist, but our science still can't detect it. So this is like the background. So some have said that when the jinn used to go up into the sky, what used to happen is they used to try to avoid getting hit by meteors. So the meteors would hit them and they were unable to go up. So it was like there's certain areas in space where you can't go beyond. Maybe, I'm just kind of like trying to speak out loud. Maybe there's some areas in space which are covered in dense meteors, and trying to penetrate through there, the jinns can't do. Or many of them can't do. And so every time they try to do it, one of the meteors hits any object or anything that's passing through. Maybe that's one of the meanings. So again, this is a speculative meaning, this is. We're not 100% sure. Another possible meaning for this is that some have said that rujuman lishayateen is that the stars and the meteors, they're not all designed for this. This is just a byproduct of some of them. In other words, again, when the shayateen, when the jinn, they try to go up into the atmosphere and they try to listen into the conversation of the angels, maybe what happens is that there's angels out there who target these jinn. It's like you can say like a force field, some sort of like deterrent system out there that prevents them from being able to go past a certain limit. Does that make sense? Yeah, just like many scientists, they discuss things about radiation fields and things like that we can understand in science today. Maybe there's something like that which jinns can't penetrate through. Again, we don't know exactly how this works, but Allah has told us that this is what happens. Even jinn don't have the capability of going beyond Allah's kingdom. Now look, all of what we study in Surah Mulk should go back to what Allah is saying in the beginning of the surah. What's Allah saying in the beginning of the surah? Tabarakalladhi. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He transcends, He's beyond every single thing. He's Tabaraka. And so all the power that Allah has, no creature can ever reach this power. Biyadihil mulk, in His hand is the kingdom. He has power over every single thing. He creates life, He creates death, so that you're tested, and He creates the seven skies in a tibaq fashion. This is what the surah should go back to, the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah is showing us all of this is still within Allah's power. وَأَعْتَدْنَا لَهُمْ عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ, and we have prepared for them عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ. Who is them? So Mufassirin say this refers to generally all evil. Whether it's evil humans, whether it's evil jinn, Allah has prepared for them a torture of sa'ir. Sa'ir means like burning fire. So if you burn a barbecue, light a barbecue, and it starts to burn, that burning sensation is called sa'ir. Sa'ar an-nar. When it's ignited and it starts to burn. So that burning flames that you have, the burning fire, is called sa'ir. So because they're talking about the shayateen, and initially, primarily it's referring to the jinn, and jinn are created from a form of fire, the perfect punishment for them would be a form of fire which they can't tolerate. Does that make sense? So just like you have fire, you light a match, that's fire. And then you have the incident in Chernobyl or in Japan where the nuclear reactor it burned down. That was a fire as well, but that was a different form of fire. A fire that we can't detect. Anyway, so this is what's been prepared for the a'tadna lahum. In other words, Allah here for the first time in this surah is showing what can happen when you disobey Allah. In other words, remember the ibtila, ahsana amala, whoever does good deeds. And we said the opposite of that is those who do bad deeds, there's something prepared for them. So Allah is showing that He's created this whole system. He's not heedless of what you're getting up to. Someone might say, Allah has created the whole universe. Why would Allah care about what I have to do on earth? Why would Allah care about me abusing other people? Why would Allah care about me slaughtering millions of people? No, Allah is reminding that Allah's being in power and control is not like a normal king. A normal king is very rich, he's a billionaire, he only cares about big things. Like a CEO of a company. He only cares about big business deals. He doesn't care about the small ones. Allah is not like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows every single thing that happens. Every single thing is within Allah's power, it's within the biyadihil mulk. We are part of Allah's mulk. So if we disobey Allah, this is what's going to happen. May Allah save us. أَعْتَدْنَا لَهُمْ عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ. And in the Quran, interestingly, if you ever find jinn being mentioned and rebellious jinn, because there's two types of jinn, just like there's two types of human, good, bad. Right? You get rebellious jinn as well. Allah mentions their punishment as sa'ir. So maybe sa'ir is a specific type of torment that's been prepared for these kind of evil people. Yeah. وَلِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ عَذَابُ جَهَنَّمْ. And for those who disbelieve in their Lord, عَذَابُ جَهَنَّمْ. So for those who disbelieve in their Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here mentions about general disbelievers. So general disbelievers are known as kafir. The word kufr in the Quran, kafir, when we say kafir, when we say, we generally use it as the opposite of Muslim. Anyone who's not a Muslim, we generally say, this person is a kafir. However, the Quran doesn't use it like this. The Quran uses kafir for someone who deliberately goes against Allah's commands. Someone who knows, is conscious, is aware of Allah's commands, but deliberately goes against them. Allah calls them kafar. Yeah? And the word kafir is from the word farmer, who covers the land with seeds. So in the Quran, إِذْ أَعْجَبَ الْكُفَارَ نَبْرَاتُ, Allah mentions about the farmer who covers the lands. So the kafir, what he does is he knows the truth, but he rejects it. So you can translate it as the one bent on disbelief. Not your average non-Muslim who has no idea of Islam. The Quran doesn't use the word kafir for him. Does that make sense? And this is an important thing I'm going to mention in a bit, which is that if Islam doesn't reach a people, then are they going to be subject to the torment of Jahannam? Like, do these people deserve Jahannam because they didn't accept Islam, and simply because Islam didn't reach them? They had no idea what Islam was about. Okay, so he says, لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, those people who are bent on disbelief. Because remember, the whole point of this Quran is to give the message of Allah. Allah is giving mankind the message of who He is. For after many years, they've forgotten who Allah is, they've distorted the messages. And as messengers used to come, it was a revival of the message. That's what it was. Each messenger used to revive the message in their community. Each messenger. And what used to happen after time was people used to distort this message. So maybe, let's say for example, Hinduism at one point was a true religion. Maybe somewhere in history when it first started off, it was based upon some true moral ethics that were divinely inspired. Maybe. And then over time, people began to distort this message. Yeah, I mean, I went to a Hindu temple, this is a couple of years ago, for just a visit. They wanted a fatwa. Yeah. So I went, and some other guys went as well. So they gave us a whole tour of the complex, and they showed it. They said Hinduism is not one religion. It's actually all the religions that are found in the Indus Valley, in Indus Valley. That's basically what we are. So he says, the one guy, he's a Hindu. He goes, I believe only one God, and my God I believe in. You can't even imagine who He is. Like, you can't have no pictures of Him. So he took us to where he worships God. And he had no statues, nothing. He said, we can't have statues in here because this goes against God. But there's only one God. He goes, but my wife, she worships this guy. He's called Sai Baba. Yeah, I go, who's Sai Baba? So they had this big guy, a Muslim guy, statue of a Muslim guy, sitting, and one leg was on the other leg. He had a tasbih in his hand, had a big beard, and he had a covering on his head. And the story was basically, in India, Sai Baba was a practicing Muslim who used to sit in a mosque. And Hindus and Muslims would come to him for help, like spiritual help. And he would like offer them advice. So the Hindus began to worship him because they believed God comes in different forms. So they said he comes in a Muslim form. Yeah. So we said to him, if you're worshipping him and we're worshipping his God, why don't we just simply worship him? Everyone worship the same God? Yeah. But that's the strange thing. So over the years, many faiths have been distorted. So the Quran's message is to bring the faiths back in alignment, yeah, to equilibrium. So لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ عَذَابُ جَهَنَّمْ. Right, those who disbelieve with their Lord, who are bent on disbelief, without any reason at all, right? They disbelieve with the one that has given them every single thing. Rabb, عَذَابُ Jahannam is the punishment of Jahannam. So Jahannam is the name given to that realm. So when we talk about Jahannam, generally what happens is we superimpose this, this idea itself of Christianizing the English language was something that was done in the time of King Henry the Eighth, when he wrote the King Henry VIII Bible. A lot of the English language became affected by this because
it wasn't called Henry VIII Bible, it was called the Great Bible.
It was a Great Bible, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was replaced by the King James Bible.
It was King James, yeah? So this Bible was affected, Jazakallah khair, this Bible was affected the way people saw religious words. So much so that even in Spain, What happened was when the Muslims had their mosques, the Muslims' mosques were very big and very spacious and very open. So the windows, they wouldn't have windows. Light would come from all four directions and even from the top. And if you go to the big Masjid al-Qurtuba, it was all open. But when the Christians came and they converted all the mosques into churches, what they done was they blocked off windows because they said, when we worship God, we should make ourselves feel as though we're humble to God. We should feel in a state of darkness. So if you go into the churches are, the windows are painted, right? And they have like a very dark and, somber kind of mood. Yeah, it's like a death. And that's how they want their religion to be. So when we look at religion, when we look at the term worship, we associate it with a Christian coinage of it. It's a Christian usage of the word worship. In our mind, we think of God, we think of a place of worship. And this has never ever been in Muslims. The term worship, ibadah, has never meant that. Ibadah has been a generic word which is used for humbling yourself to God in any aspect of your life. This is what ibadah is. Does that make sense? So the same thing we have with other aspects of religion. So over here, he says, Adhabu Jahannam. So Jahannam is a realm. We don't know the reality of this realm. I remember there were some physicists in Pakistan. They tried to work out the temperature of Jahannam from earth. Yeah. Based upon ayats and hadith, they try to. And personally, I think this is a waste of time. And it makes Allah's religion look very silly. Yeah. So they worked it out and they said Jahannam has to be this hot because in one narration it says that the fire of Jahannam is 70 times hotter than the hottest fire on earth. Right? So first of all, have you found the hottest fire on earth? Number two is when the Arabs say 70, they don't mean 70 as in a specific figure. It means a high number. Yeah, it means a high number. So, Adhabu Jahannam, this is the punishment. Wa bi'sal masir, and what a worse place to go to. Bi'sal masir means, what a worse place to end up in. You live your whole life disobeying Allah, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, and then in the end, you end up in Jahannam for eternity. What a waste of life. What a worse place to go to. Bi'sal masir, Allah says. What a worse place to go to. Now, Allah describes Jahannam. إِذَا أُلْقُوا فِيهَا سَمِعُوا لَهَا شَهِيقًا وَهِيَ تَفُورُ. When they are thrown into it, أُلْقُوا فِيهَا. Now the word alqa is actually used in Arabic for throwing something haphazardly. So when you throw something on target, in Arabic you call it rami. Like when you go for Hajj and you shoot the pebbles on the jamarat. You call it ramyul jamarat. Because you're aiming, you're supposed to aim for the walls, yeah, unless you're like hitting the guy in front on his head. Because that happened to me. So basically, rami means to hit something with precision. Yeah, tarmihim bihijaratin min sijil, like in the Quran. But alqa, it means to throw something, but you're not really kind of looking for a target. You're just throwing it in a rough vicinity. Yeah, you say alqa. So here it says ulqu fiha, they'll be thrown into Jahannam
Without any care.
Without any care. So somehow something is going to grab them and it's just going to chuck them in, like we say chuck. So they're going to be thrown into Jahannam haphazardly, just thrown in. May Allah save us. Sami'u laha shahiqan wa hiya tafur. They will hear for Jahannam shahiq. Shahiq means the sound like a donkey makes when it's out of breath. Can anyone make that sound? Yeah? It's Ramadan, so I don't know, maybe some people can. So that sound, everyone knows that sound in the head, yeah? So when the donkey breathes, right, it has two breaths it makes, and they're both extreme. Right? One is breathing out, that's called the shahiq, and one is called the zafir. When you breathe in. Yeah, so you know what the donkey sounds like? So when the donkey breathes in, it's called zafir and shahiq. So Allah describes in another verse in the Quran about the people of Jahannam, the sounds that they will make in Jahannam will be the sound of this donkey kind of sound. Because they'll be so exhausted from the torture that they're going to face. All they can do, they can't even speak, they're just going to be trying to breathe in and out. Yeah? And Allah here describes this similar sound for Jahannam though. He says Jahannam will make that sound as though Jahannam is a living creature. Like Jahannam is a creature. Yeah, it's not something which is like, just a fixed object. It's not like a fire. It's actually living, breathing. He actually knows. And in the Quran, there's like, Allah mentions about Jahannam. Jahannam's going to say to Allah, Hal min mazid, is there any more? Is there any more to fill me up? Is there any more to fill me? Yeah, so we don't know. It could be a creature. It could be a creature we don't know about. Because many people, they just see Jahannam as like a very hot sun, something like that. People are going to be thrown into it. But it's more scarier to imagine Jahannam as living. Because when it's conscious, it knows exactly the pain that it's inflicting on its inmates. Yeah, it knows exactly what it's doing. You know, you watch those horror films, and the house is alive. Yeah, you watch one of those ones. Yeah, the house is alive, and the house is after the person. That's scarier than having ghosts in the house. Because it's like the house is eating you up, the house is destroying you. May Allah save us. So, laha shahiqun wa hiya tafur. Tafara yafuru is like a fountain. It's called a fawar. It kind of pushes up water. So in Jahannam, there's going to be some system where some sort of heat that's going to be produced, and it's going to be going up in this fashion. Maybe like a volcano, some volcanic eruption. Maybe similar. Maybe it's going to be some like a, one of those sunbursts. What are they called? Sun flares. Maybe it's going to be something like that. That's a fawar as well. It's going to be very powerful. It could be radiation. It could be something that just melts all your organs. وَهِيَ تَفُورٌ. So this verse is describing to us the severity of Jahannam. تَكَادُ تَمَيَّزُ مِنَ الْغَيْظِ. So تَكَادُ تَمَيَّزُ. Jahannam, takadu, it's almost tearing itself apart out of extreme anger. Ghayz, it means the highest level of anger you can reach. So imagine you're driving your car, you're fasting, you got 1 hour left to break your fast. Someone pulls up in front of you, smashes into your car, makes you out as it's your fault. Imagine how angry you get at that moment, and you want to rip your shirt off, and you want to go crazy, and your veins are bulging. So that condition is called ghayz. That is, ghayz is utter anger, utter wrath. So Allah is describing Jahannam as having such utter wrath that Jahannam reaches the peaks of its anger, where it almost tears itself to pieces. That's how violent it is. So imagine you're standing in front of a lion, and you messed around with the cubs. And this lion or lioness is like extremely angry, violent. And it's interesting because Jahannam is actually feminine. Yeah, Jahannam is feminine. So it's like the feminine creatures are always more violent than the... If you think about it, lions, I watched David Attenborough, so I know this. Yeah, so the lionesses are actually more violent if anyone tries to attack their cubs in any way than the males. Yeah, the males, I think it's the lionesses that actually catch the prey or something, they say, on many occasions. So Jahannam is being described like this female, violent, extremely angry. Yeah, in other words, her rage can't be controlled. Yeah, there's a famous English saying, isn't there? Hell hath no fury like a scorned woman. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, may Allah save us. Anyway, so takadu tamayyazu min al-ghayth. Right, this is the image you have in your mind is this violent image of Jahannam. The sounds that it's making, the screaming sounds, that your ears can't even bear. And the images, the smells you're going to smell, the other people screaming in Jahannam, these sounds that people are going to be making. So imagine all of this. Then he says, كُلَّمَا أُلْقِيَ فِيهَا فَوْجٌ سَأَلَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا. Every time a whole army of people, a nation of people is thrown into it. Fawj means like a whole army, who fall under one banner. So a fawj, like an army, whole people who fall under one banner, who follow one banner. Sorry, what you saying? Tamayyuz. Tamayyuz means that to tear apart, to become like pieces. Yeah? Tamayyuz, to become separate, to tear yourself apart, to become separate. كُلَّمَا أُلْقِيَ فِيهَا فَوْجٌ. Every time a fawj is thrown into it. So in other words, people are not going to be thrown one by one. It's actually, imagine like millions of people are being thrown. Millions of people are being thrown into it. That just having that image of millions of people there being thrown into a pit of fire is scary. So imagine Jahannam. Every time they're thrown in, سَأَلَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَذِيرٌ. The khazana of Jahannam will ask. Khazana of Jahannam basically are the gods of Jahannam. So Jahannam has gods, right? People who, just like prisons have gods. So this concept of Jahannam having some sort of gods, what are they? Are they angels? Are they some other creation we don't know? How does it work? We don't need to go into that. But there seems to be some sort of a system in place in Jahannam. It's not just a random pit of fire and people are being thrown into it. It's a whole system in place. Yeah. So, سألهم خزنة. The khazana are going to be asking each one of them. They're going to be asking them, ألم يأتكم نذير? Didn't a warner come to you? Like, how come you ended up here? Didn't a warner come to you? Now this question is not the question of the account that's going to take place on the Day of Judgment. That's account is separate. This is actually going to be a question of humiliation. Like you go to prison, may Allah save us. Person goes to prison, let's say, and then inmates, or like they say, the screws, the security guards are going to say to them, "How come you? What put you here? What did you do?" Yeah. So imagine your crime. You're disgusted at the crime you committed. You can't even tell anyone in prison what you done. Yeah. They're going to be asked this. Alam ya'tikum nadhir? Didn't a warner come to you on earth, telling you about this hereafter? Alam ya'tikum nadhir? Yeah. So this is a question of rebuking them, of humiliation. Yeah, a rhetorical question. Okay, so this word nadhir, what I want you to do, we'll stop there now. What I want you to do for next session, inshallah, is I want you to find in the Quran the different usages of the word nadhir. Nadhir means a warner. So I want you to find in the Quran how this word has been used for different concepts or things or people. Okay, so just to recap what we covered today. So today we covered the issue of looking into the creation of Allah. Allah is inviting all human beings to look into creation. Creation just doesn't mean, remember, the sky. Everything. Look into mathematics, look into physics, look into science, look into zoology, look into social sciences, look around you, anything you want. And try to find that tafawut, inconsistency in Allah's creation. That's the first thing. Number two is we mentioned about the stars. Yeah, that the stars have been described as being masabih. Yeah, and this creation of the masabih itself is a sign of Allah's kingdom. Allah is in control of it. I didn't mention this, but some of the Mufassirin have said that the Quran mentions three purposes for the stars. One is as they are lanterns, as adornments of the sky. One is like the shayateen, and the third is that these are very good for directions. Yeah. So on earth, even till today, there are people on earth that can travel around the entire earth just by following the stars. Yeah, they know where the North Star is, and then from the North Star they can figure out exactly which direction they're in and how far they can travel. Yeah, so these stars are the natural GPS system that Allah has created, and people use them. So this is also mentioned in the Quran. So what I want you to do, I want to find a verse that mentions that the stars are there for guidance, as in for people traveling on earth, as GPS systems. And then we mentioned about this idea of disobedience to Allah, and that because Allah is the owner of the kingdom, Allah has prepared also a system in place for people who are disobedient on earth, and this is called Jahannam. And then Allah mentions about description of Jahannam. So we'll stop there, inshallah. If you have any questions, you can ask your questions now. Yeah.
You know, in the last lesson we talked about Samawa.
Yeah.
Previously the scholars thought it was the 7 planets.
Yeah.
And then more planets were discovered, so you shouldn't definitely say.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, with the stars now, we're saying that's definitely the stars.
No, we're not saying definitely the stars.
Oh, we're not saying
that's why when you looked at the translation, I said some of the translations are trying to translate lanterns as stars.
So it might not actually be the stars.
Might not be stars. It might be referring to some other light force. We don't know. But most likely, I mean, at the moment, we don't know anything else. So that's why in our time today, when we would be explaining it, most likely we would explain it as stars. Does that make sense? So this is why, like, scientific discoveries, if you look at the Mufassirin, there was a time when the Mufassirin used to say things like, they would say things like, in the body there's 4 humors, bile and blood and yellow humor. So they would say these are the 4 things that become imbalanced in your body, and then you become ill. But modern science now tells us different now. So what happens is every era, when people look at the Quran, these observational sciences that the Quran mentions, every era people are trying to interpret them from what they know at that time, because they think they're at the peak of cutting edge technology they have. So they're trying to interpret it. But then 100 years later, when science develops more, people realize that was based upon old medieval understanding of the sciences. And so every time, we've got to be very careful about this. Yeah, so we shouldn't become too absolute in the way the Quran describes observational in ayats. Understand them and then say maybe they refer to this and maybe they don't. Any other question? Yeah.
Can you explain the difference between Jamal, Zina, and Zukhruf and Khan?
Between Jamal and? Yeah, so Jamal is like the natural beauty a person has. It's just slightly enhanced maybe. You wash your face in the morning, mashallah, Jamil. And then after that, you put a bit of makeup on, that becomes Zina, where you're hiding what's underneath, but you can still tell what's there. And then Zukhruf is like, you put on a mask or something. Yeah, put on a mask, you can't even tell the limits of the face. Yeah, that's called Zukhruf. Ji. Any other question?
Zukhruf is also a name of a surah, I think.
Yeah. The name of a surah. And that's why in the Quran Allah says about that. حتى إذا أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت وظن أهلها أنهم قادرون عليها. Allah says whenever a nation declines, it always follows a pattern. And that pattern is they always reach a level where the land that they're living in, it becomes so covered that they think they have full control over it. So for example, like in our days today, it's like the society thinks that they've figured out everything there is to know about society, how it works, how it functions, every little detail. This is what the Quran describes as ظَنَّ أَهْلُهَا أَنَّهُمْ قَادِرُونَ عَلَيْهَا, that they have full qudra controlling it. All of a sudden, a calamity hits them and everything's destroyed. Like look what happened to the Egyptians, look what happened to Sumerians, look what happened to the ancient Turkish, look what happened to all these different places in the world. At their time, they were at the peak of their technology and then decline. So this happens, you reach your peak and then you decline. Ji, any other questions? No, sisters, any questions? Yeah, so nazar, the difference between nazar and ru'ya is, ru'ya is just is seeing something, to see. Like in English we say, I saw the cat. Yeah, so that is ru'ya. So it's done with the eyes. And nazar is to look at something. So you're kind of focusing on it. So when your gaze is focusing on something, you call this in Arabic nazar. Yeah, so there's more time spent in nazar than in ru'ya. Ru'ya you can just glimpse and see something, passing by, and you can say I saw it. But if you just saw something passing by, you can't say I looked at it, because looking requires a bit of time. And then basar is like looking with contemplation and thinking, insight. That's why the word basira means an inner perception, like an inner kind of contemplation. Any other question?
Yeah, like the actual meaning of kufr.
Actual meaning of kufr is a farmer who covers land. And that's, if you guys are interested in Arabic, right, my advice to you guys is, when you're studying the Quran, study the linguistic meanings of the Quran. Like I've got a YouTube channel, for those who don't know, it's called Roots of Knowledge. And on there I've done a series on the linguistic meanings of words in the Quran. So I break down the words, how the Arabs used to understand them. Like, for example, like the word lantern, for instance. So, or like we said about the book, the original kind of thing they look at. So the word kufr actually means to cover up.
Yeah, I meant in the how Allah means it for a person, like for someone who falls into kufr, for example, or is a kafir.
Yeah. So how because the kafir, for example, the person who sees the truth, like Fir'aun, he saw the truth, he knew exactly that the signs that Musa alayhi salam came with were something beyond human capability. Yet he still disbelieved. So the term kafir, the label kafir applied to him. Because instead of saying kafir, let's say, okay, the one who rejects after clearly seeing something. That's what a kafir is.
So a Muslim could also fall into kufr as well if he was to reject something
part
of the deen, for example.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, the word for being ungrateful in Arabic, ungrateful is kufran. Kufran in Arabic, if you say this person is kafir, you can mean out of Islam and also unappreciative. Yeah, kufran or ni'mah, they say. Yeah. Ji, any other question? No? Alright, jazakallah khair guys. And I will see you inshallah next week.